What's going on, guys? This is David for Flix Talk Podcast, and I'm back with another movie review. Now, the movie that I just checked out this past Thursday was Mid90s. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with that one, a lot of people aren't because it is considered an independent film. Make sure you guys check out the trailer. I'm going to leave the link in the description below. This film is brought to you by A24 Studios, who recently brought us Hereditary. Now, this film is written and directed by Jonah Hill, and he's making his directorial debut with this film. Now, as the title suggests, Mid90s, I had to get appropriate with it and wear the Rock with Modern Life tee, as well as the Nirvana hat, because I am a child of the 90s. I was born in 1985, so actually it would put me around the same time and age bracket of our main character, Stevie. So a real quick synopsis of this film, Mid90s. This film follows Stevie, a 13-year-old in 90s era LA, who spends his summer navigating between his troubled home life and a group of new friends that he meets at a Motor Avenue skate shop. Now, right off the bat, guys, I really loved all the 90s nostalgia. I know it's probably the first thing people are going to say, because this film does open with the credit sequence of Stevie kind of exploring his older brother, who beats him up on the regular, his room, and just all the, cool hip-hop posters, the hip-hop magazines like The Source, all the CDs, the tapes, and everything like that. And, he had a little weight room set up and all that stuff I had as a kid growing up in the mid-90s, and it was freaking phenomenal to see all that right off the bat. Now, not only with all that in the room, we kind of see Stevie exploring, his LA area, and he kind of just sees some kids in the corner, and they're all kind of shooting each other with water guns. It's a summer of somewhere in the mid-90s of like 95 to like 97, because I believe they do show like a Sony PlayStation 1, and it actually has the analog controllers. So I think that came out around the, 96, 97, something around there. So, and then he kind of looks across the street in front of a skate shop are these kids that are a little older than him, I believe anywhere from 15 to 18. He just really thinks of them as real cool. They're bad mouthing other shop owners and stuff like that. So he kind of gets drawn into, where they all hang out, and then he kind of introduces himself from there. So Stevie kind of finds himself put in this position where he doesn't know anything. I mean, he's 13. He's going from playing, with Ninja Turtles and video games to, wanting to hang with these older kids who are obviously into skateboarding as well as drugs and, stealing things. They're driving, their own cars and stuff like that. And, they're attending house parties and messing with girls and stuff like that. So it's a very wild world change for him. Stevie has no idea about skateboarding. So what he does is he actually trades his brother some video games for an old skateboard of his, and then he kind of upgrades from there. He really practices, he gets his determination on, and he just focuses, and then he starts landing tricks, and it becomes a really cool evolution process of this kid who's kind of trying to break out of the shell of being a preteen and hang with the older kids. And this is exactly what he accomplishes in this movie, whether it be the good way or the bad way. He really fits in, and he kind of bonds with these kids as a group, as a family, and I really love that about this film. Now, another cool thing is Jonah Hill filmed this completely in a 4:3 aspect ratio. So if you guys don't know, that's pretty much what these sidebars cut off. Widescreen has those black bars on top, and he kind of really set that 90s feel, because that was the aspect ratio of the 90s, with electronics and stuff. It was a square. Do you guys remember square TVs? You probably don't. Another cool like of this film was the eclectic soundtrack. Now, if you guys have checked out the official trailer for Mid90s, you'll notice a lot of hip hop, a couple of soul songs, but actually sprinkled through, you get a couple of rock songs, you get a lot of retro stuff, not only hip hop genre, but you kind of get stuff all over the map, and it was definitely influenced, you can tell, by Jonah Hill. Now, speaking of Jonah Hill, I saw him on The Breakfast Club recently, and he had an interview there, and this story seems loosely based upon his life, where I could see him actually playing Stevie, a 13-year-old, because he did talk about in the interview he had an older brother who was about 6 years older than him that he looked up to, and he passed away, unfortunately. Now, not only with Stevie, we get our band of troubled youth. They smoke weed, they smoke cigarettes, they do all kinds of drugs, and we get a little backstory on each kind of one of them. Not too much, because they are side characters, but it's a cool little description and kind of focus and insight onto their life of what they have, because a lot of them are troubled. There's stuff going on at home for them, so their only outlet is hanging out at the skate shop and skating. Now, in this movie, they touch on jealousy, partying, like I said, drug use, a lot of cursing, a lot of peer pressure stuff going on, but they all kind of make one thing clear, is that they're trying to make it out of this ghetto that they all live in, especially the character of Ray, played by Nikhil Smith. I thought he was a great actor. I heard he's actually a pro skater as well, so it's cool because we do get a couple of pro skaters in this movie. There's also a kid named Fourth Grade who, they said has an intelligence of a fourth grader. I believe he's also a pro skater too. So it's really cool because you do see them actually performing tricks, and they all work together to form this close bond, like I said, but they all kind of have their own separate aspirations and dreams. But it looks like this kid Ray is really trying to make skating a profession, and he just wants to get out of the hood and just travel and see the world. But he has a friend in the group that's kind of holding him down, so you get all kinds of relatable conflict going on there, and I really appreciated seeing all that stuff. Now guys, on to some of my dislikes, and they're more little dislikes, nothing really that takes away too much from the film, but there's no real story structure like a typical movie would be. So if you guys are looking, you know, for something like that, this might not be the film for you. This is more of just events happening. There's no, you know, beginning, you know, climactic, and then, you know, resolution towards the end. Events just kind of happen, and you know, it's just more of him kind of breaking out of his shell and going from this sweet kid to this badass wannabe gangster hanging with this like troubled youth, like I said. So it's a really cool, you know, blossoming of what ends up happening to Stevie. And like I said, it would have been cool to kind of stretch the film out a little more, because if you guys didn't know, this movie is very short. I believe it's an hour and 24 minutes, so it is very short, guys. So I would have liked to see maybe an extra 10 minutes of just kind of resolution for some of his actions, because we get to see him do all this kind of bad stuff and we don't see any consequences with it. Also, something that I wouldn't really call a dislike, but apparently everyone in the theater around me really kind of hated that it abruptly ended. So all these events kind of happened. We get to this pivotal peak point in his life where he has to either make a change or pretty much die, and the movie just stops. Like I said, you don't really have any consequences for his actions. The whole movie just stops, and then you kind of hope that, you know, either Stevie changed his ways or he kind of got led down this worse path that he was headed on. So that being said, guys, I overall loved Mid-90s. I really don't think you have to be an 80s or 90s baby to kind of appreciate this, but it was a simpler time then. Obviously, a lot of kids were doing more outdoor activities instead of staring at their phones or tablets or whatever it is. So there was a lot more shown, and I hope this film actually gets younger kids out skating or just out and about playing sports or whatever, because it is about that forming of peer-to-peer interaction, that real life peer-to-peer interaction. So that being said, I gotta give Mid-90s a solid 8.5 out of 10. I loved it. I pretty much didn't have any gripes about it, other than I thought it could have expanded a little more on the runtime. But as far as a first time for Jonah Hill, I thought this was a really good debut. Just like we had Bradley Cooper with A Star Is Born, we're getting a lot of these actors kind of, you know, jumping into the whole production and directorial side of things, and they're doing a great job, and I can't wait to see more from these guys. Alright guys, if you did like what you see, please give it a thumbs up. Have you seen Mid-90s? Let me know in the comments below what you thought. Alright guys, make sure you guys hit that subscribe and bell notification if you haven't already, so you can stay up to date with all of my content. Alright guys, thank you so much. Make sure you guys are following me on my social medias on Twitter and Instagram at Flix Talk Podcast. That's at FLIX Talk Podcast. I'll have all the information down below if you guys can't remember that there. All right, so until the next one, thank you so much, guys. And this is David for Flix Talk signing out, saying thanks for watching.